Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Elizabeth and I am a freelance writer and editor. I'm also a blogger and an aspiring author. If you want to find out more information about my blog, you can check out the link in the description below. I'll also have information about the resources that I offer for college students and for aspiring authors or anyone who wants to become a writer or write anything. So last week we talked about conflict resolution, and this week we are going to pick up the conversation by talking about divorce. Ugh, I hate that word so much, and it makes me sick to think about it, just because of how destructive it is. My husband, thankfully, has the same mentality, and the fact that we both don't like the word or even the concept of divorce has caused us to create a rule. And that rule is that we cannot get divorced. It is not an option for us. We don't talk about it. We don't joke about it. It is not a last resort we have in our back pocket in case it doesn't work out. No, it's got to work out. We have to deal with it regardless. And actually, having this rule in our marriage has helped us a lot. It's helped us tremendously to deal with our issues instead of running away from them, which we're programmed to do. If we have a problem with somebody, we tend to run away and not deal with it and not speak to them ever again. But what this has taught us to do is to deal with our problems and to rely on God instead of running away or instead of harboring bitterness or just not dealing with it. So having this rule has increased our faith. It's strengthened our marriage. It's helped us to just have a better outlook on our marriage and on our conflicts. So it's really been helpful. And it's also been helpful for us as individuals where we've had to face our pride, we've had to face our fears, and we've been able to deal with things together. So as I've been thinking about this concept of divorce, I realize that it's so much easier to cut off friendships than it is to cut off marriages. We are in a society where it's so easy to just block somebody on Facebook or to just stop talking to your friends or, delete their number from your phone and never speak to them again. And it's sad. But I wonder what it would look like if we developed the same mentality where divorce is not an option for our friends. See, when the church is described in the Bible, by Paul, by the New Testament writers, and by Jesus, they all describe a body. They all describe a church, one unit. So that means we are all one. We're a body. We're a church. We're a family. They're all one unit, and everything about who we are is one. Is united. We're not separate people obviously in a way we are, but when we think of ourselves biblically, we are one body and we have to act like one body. And obviously we have our own gifts, we have our own strengths, we have our own personalities, our own boundaries and things like that. But in terms of our relationship with one another, we have to think of ourselves as connected by by a thread that cannot be torn apart. So the imagery that came to my mind that I actually didn't include in my blog, but it's the imagery of the body. So let's say I didn't like my arm for whatever reason, and I wanted to cut it off. Now that wouldn't really be healthy, unless, of course, it was damaging me in some way. If it had been, if it was bleeding profusely from an accident or something like that, maybe I need to get it amputated and cut off. And if I have a really bad infection, that could be happening. But for the most part, if I have a pimple on my arm, if I have too much fat and I don't like the way it looks, or if I worked out too hard and it hurts, I don't necessarily want to cut it off. I want to deal with it. So that's how we should be looking at our relationships. We should be saying, okay, what can I do to make this better? So in Romans 12:18, Paul encourages us to do whatever it takes to live at peace with one another, as so much as it depends on us. So what does that look like? In my blog, I actually use the imagery of being stuck in a room with somebody. So pretend you're in an escape room, and honestly, those make me nervous sometimes because I have certain phobias. But imagine that you are in a room with somebody and you cannot leave unless you deal with your problems. Would you be honest with the person? Would you curse them out? Would you just swipe everything under the rug? What would you do to get out of that room? And that's how you should be looking at your relationships. If somebody has hurt you, you can't just leave the room. You have to deal with it, or else you're cutting your arm off, and that's not good. So I actually, when I was talking about this concept last week, I had some people come up to me and ask me, how do you know when it's healthy to cut somebody off? When should you cut somebody out of your life? And I have two criteria that I would use personally, and that, according to my interpretation of scripture, are pretty biblical. So, and if you have any other comments, you definitely can share them below. Any other thoughts on that? I'd be glad to hear that and start a conversation about it. But the two thoughts that came to my mind, the first one is the person has to tell you that he or she does not want to continue the relationship. So that actually has to come out of the person's mouth. For example, if I had a friend and she wasn't returning my texts or my calls, or just didn't want to hang out with me anymore, I'll say, oh, well, she doesn't want to be my friend anymore. I'll just cut off the relationship. I won't reach out to her anymore. But because she didn't say, I want to cut this relationship off, I'm assuming, and assumptions, as we all know, can lead us into bad paths. So what I would do then is call her out on it the next time I see her, or if she's really not answering my text, send her a text and say, hey, I really miss you. I really want to hang out with you. Can we make time for each other? I really want to make this friendship work. Can we do something about this? And she may come back to me and say, oh, sorry, I was just really busy. Yeah, of course we can still be friends. That's fine. Or she can say, yeah, you really hurt me and I don't want anything to do with it anymore. And that's when I would say, okay, I'm sorry, our friendship has to be cut off. So the second thing would be if you're facing abuse. And that would be physical, mental, or emotional abuse. And even if the person doesn't mean to abuse you, if you are, physically hurt in any way, if the person has punched you or done anything to harm your body physically, or mentally, you can't sleep at night, you can't eat. That's also kind of physical, but you're so obsessed about this relationship that you can't maintain a daily life. Or emotionally, you're crying often. It's okay to cry every once in a while, but if it's something that's consuming your thoughts, your mind, your heart, then you need to consider getting out of this relationship. And if you are facing abuse in a friendship, I would definitely seek out wise counsel and I would get help for that, because the person, most from what I've discovered about abuse, unless the person has a repeated pattern of abuse. So some people don't know they're being abusive. Some people, are just codependent and they don't know what proper boundaries are. So they may be confused. Why are you breaking off this friendship? I don't understand. So you need somebody to help you stand up for you when you're feeling it's uncomfortable for you to say, yeah, you're being abusive. But definitely make it clear that you have boundaries and those people are crossing those boundaries. And if they're not willing to change that, then you should definitely get help and definitely get out of that relationship. So again, God calls us to live at peace with one another and to live in harmony with one another. So I would encourage you today, if you are thinking about cutting off a friendship, try to make it right in any way you can. Make it a challenge to yourself. If you're married and divorce is not an option for you, what would it take for you to not do that to a friend as well? So, marriage, in my marriage, it actually has helped me a lot. As I said before, it has helped me to not have divorce as an option because I've been able to deal with things. I've been able to look at my own pride and see when I'm not letting Lenny in to my hurt. And it's actually helped me to grow a lot. And it's helped us to communicate better because instead of me just giving him a silent treatment or him walking away, we've been able to sit down and deal with things before it gets out of hand. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, you can list them in the comment box below. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Bye. Thanks for watching.